When we control our children's eating, we're giving them the message that they can't trust themselves, that they can't trust their bodies. And I'm not saying we can't guide them. We can guide our children. But when we use force and control and criticism, that teaches them that they can't have a process. They can't listen to themselves and trust themselves. They can't try stuff out and fail. I am a non-coercive collaborative parent. I make videos about non-coercion and how to create mutually loving, respectful, and playful relationships with our kids. So not using power over, but power with, a shared sense of power. Let's talk about kids and food, okay? What if you allowed your child to have food autonomy and you trusted that they could regulate their own diet? Now, I'm sure people are like, no, that's not possible. Kids don't have enough information. Kids don't have the intelligence. You have to make them eat well, and then they will become good eaters. So when I was growing up, my parents did not allow me to eat sugar. We had no sugar in our house. We had no sugary foods in our house, and this is for most of my childhood. And so what I would do is I would go over to friends' houses and I would just go crazy on their food. I would eat sugar cereal and as much junk as I could get my hands on because I was so desperate to have control over my body and what I wanted. And also, I wanted to be like everyone else. What happened was, as I grew up, when I started eating things on my own when my parents weren't around, I felt a lot of shame, a lot of internal conflict when I would eat the things my parents told me were bad for me, right? I felt like I was breaking the rules, but I had to do it. And there was just so much pain. There was so much pain. And it didn't even occur to me to stop and tune in to what I wanted. Never. I never learned that. I'm still undoing that. And so what I've noticed, I'm going to tell you the story of how I became a non-coercive parent, and it had to do with my daughter sneaking candy in the bathroom. I started to do what my parents did, and I didn't let her have sugar for the first 5 years of her life. We're very, very little, like 1 or 2 cookies a day or something, or like 1 ice cream a week or something, a very little bit. And when we would go to like functions or parties, I would only let her have this little bit amount. And then I was learning all about non-coercive parenting. I was watching videos, and then one day I went into the bathroom and my daughter was there and her cheeks were full of something. She looked like a little chipmunk. And I was like, what are you doing? What are you eating? And it turned out she was sneaking candy that she had gotten and she had saved up and she was hiding it because she knew I wouldn't let her eat it. And I had like a huge awakening around coercion at that moment. I sort of looked down the pipeline of our future and I thought, if I keep controlling her eating, she's just going to have to get more and more sneaky. And we are going to be on separate sides of health. I'm not going to be able to help her with her health because she's going to be having to go around me and fight me to get to the stuff she's into, that she wants to try. And I decided to go fully non-coercive around food and also everything else, although that's a big, long other story. I took her aside and I said, I'm going to stop controlling your food intake and I'm going to help you learn about food. And you can have whatever you want. And she's like, I want candy. I want sweets. I was like, let's go. So we went out to the store. We got a lot of candy. We had so much fun. We actually made films about it. And she got sick from it. And she had to throw out she got this huge lollipop. And she ate so much. It had all this, dyes in it. Made her feel so sick. She had to throw it out. So she learned about something that day. And we went on the long journey of her learning about food. Now, I always had, and I always made healthy foods. I always had vegetables and fruits and grains and all kinds of stuff around, and I made her meals that had it in it. But she, because she had been restricted and controlled for so many years, she of course went really whole hog on sweets. She wanted to try every candy, every ice cream, every cookie. She wanted just like every popsicle. And every time we went shopping, we'd get her lots of it. And she just like started eating all of it. And, most parents would freak out at that point. But I was learning that the more freedom I allowed in our house, the closer we were getting. So she'd be like, you have to try this with me. And we would try stuff together. She was so excited. It was like we were not enemies anymore. There were definitely days where my daughter ate ice cream for dinner. She wanted it before dinner. She wanted it during dinner. She wanted it after dinner. She definitely did the things that everyone are most scared of. People don't believe that children can self-regulate. we believe that we have to mold kids to be healthy, which makes no sense. Because if we don't give them the space to have an experience of the food, then they're not learning in an embodied way. They're just learning from their heads, and because you're forcing them, that's not a really great way to learn. Then eating becomes because I said so, and it doesn't become something that you check in with your body. You see how certain foods make you feel. My daughter, even though she's eaten tons of sweets for years, she also eats lots of very, very good foods all the time. She loves everything. She loves all the food groups, and she learns. She learns through experience things that make her stay up at night, things that make her feel like crashed out afterwards. Okay, so non-coercive collaborative parenting is a long arc of healing. It is not a quick fix. When you take the control off, your kids don't regulate in a couple of months. Sometimes they don't even regulate in a year. I can say that it's been 7 years. She is now 12. And she has taken charge of her health and her body. She's decided she wants to exercise. She's decided she doesn't want to eat high fructose corn syrup. She doesn't want to eat candy. She doesn't, she's deciding. She's testing. She's getting into what she buys and what we buy together and things that she makes and smoothies. And I mean, she's invested in food because she feels like it, not because I make her. But it was a long journey. I mean, if someone was watching from the outside, they would have said like, oh my God, she eats so much crap. But it took 7 years for her to take the power and say, this is what I like. This is what I want to do. I want to get healthy. This is what healthy feels like. And I'm now her partner on that journey. I'd also model for her what healthy eating is like. I eat really well, and she gets to see that, and we talk about it, and we learn what are carbs. We're learning it together. That's the difference. So when we power over our children, we're on separate teams. We become something they have to fight. And then we can't have the same level of closeness or pleasure. We can't share the pleasure of exploring about food together when the kids don't know what you're going to take away. When we control our children's eating, we're giving them the message that they can't trust themselves, that they can't trust their bodies. And I'm not saying we can't guide them. We can guide our children. But when we use force and control and criticism and like the withdrawal of approval, when we disapprove, when we shame them, that teaches them that they can't have a process. They can't listen to themselves and trust themselves. They can't ask you for advice because now they're going to get your criticism. They can't try stuff out and fail. Like, yes, sometimes she eats things that keeps her up. I know you don't want that to happen. You want your kids to always go to bed and go to sleep at the right time. But the truth is, when you do this lifestyle where you're exploring together, they have to try and fail. They have to learn through learning. The thing about this style of parenting is that you prioritize your connection over everything else. So if you prioritize making your child eat in a healthy way that you think is healthy over being connected, then you're going to have a huge loss of connection. And I believe it's not worth it. It's not worth giving up your closeness with your kids so that they'll have a clean room, so they'll have a body that you think looks the right way, so that they'll talk in language that you approve of. All the things parents say are non-negotiables, that they are willing to give up closeness with their child for those non-negotiables. There is another way, and it's called connection and learning together. And it is so rewarding, and it feels so good. Even if your child isn't doing it perfectly, because you're not doing it perfectly, none of us are. We all have to make mistakes and try and have the experience of being alive.
She's my wild storm child.